Welcome in, welcome back. We're the Real Selection Committee. My name's Mike. This is Greg, and we're back at it, getting ready, picking these teams for what's going to happen this upcoming college football season. So we're selecting teams that we're going to go over and review and talk about, kind of analyze them and tell them where we think they're going to play in this playoff system, how good they're going to do in their conference and such. So the team that we're going to go with today, Clemson Tigers.
Yes,
now,
sir.
I'm really high on this team. I think
Yeah.
this team's going to play in big in this role here.
They're going to be better this year than they were last year. And for those of you who don't remember, they won the ACC last year.
They
even
did.
though they kind of backed into it.
Yes.
But this team does grade well. They look very strong in the ACC. We'll see how they fare against Miami of Florida, and I think Louisville is going to factor in a little bit as well. But this team is going to be right there. They are definitely pretty good.
Yeah, they have some. Their key questions their superstar quarterback, Cade Klubnik. Is he going to improve? I mean, he's a solid, good quarterback. I want to put him at the top 5 right now in the league. And how is he going to take that step forward?
Every reason to believe he will. He's gotten better every year he's played. So, I mean, I don't see why he can't. A lot of people think he's the best quarterback that's going to be coming out of college football.
Yeah.
A lot of people have him as the number 1 pick next year. So, if what everybody else thinks comes to fruition, not a question he can lead them back to the playoffs.
And this is a team that's returning a lot of starters, too. I mean, so this team is really highly touted coming into this year as have something to say here. And like you said, they did win the ACC.
Yeah.
Let's go over their schedule. Let's talk about last year. They were 9-3.
Yeah.
And they backed into the ACC championship game. They won that, and then that put them into the playoffs where they got upset by Texas. So starting off, they played the first game of the season against Georgia, and Georgia pretty much handled them.
Yeah, they got beat up bad in that game, and it really set a tone early where Clemson didn't look like they were going to do much.
Right. Their other loss on there was Louisville.
Yeah.
I didn't see that coming in because I think they're a better team than Louisville.
They were better than Louisville last year, but the one thing with Louisville is a team that always plays good football, and even when they're not in the running for the championship game, they're usually at least a spoiler.
Yeah.
And the ACC is full of spoiler types.
Yeah, they're definitely full of spoilers. And then their last game, they ended up losing against South Carolina, which we felt was really hot. And that was at the end of the year where Carolina was on fire. So those were those 3 losses. But other than that, I'm really high on this team.
Yeah.
They went in, they played SMU in the AC championship game there. They beat them. Advanced, like we said, they played Texas. So, they had a very successful season.
Yeah.
I think this year they're going to even go up a little higher with that.
Well, the thing with the last year, and there were a lot of teams that made the playoffs that didn't fare well in the playoffs. They got some success, but they left enough meat on the bone to where they should be coming in this year hungry and wanting to strive for more. So I think that's going to work out for them, and this paperwork says things should work out pretty good for them too.
Yeah, so let's jump into this 2025 schedule. Just talk briefly about that. They open up the year against LSU, which is going to be a tough game for them. So other than that, I think the schedule's kind of lining up for them to have a successful year. They got SMU in the mix. They got Louisville again, so that'll be a statement
game. It's gonna be a tough game.
Yeah, so they'll want to win that game. They got South Carolina again, last game of the year. Mixed in. They got Florida State. So I think their odds are probably a 9-win team here. I think probably I'm putting them at a 10-win team here.
Yeah, I think 9.5, 10. By the paperwork, now here again, I don't have the schedule in front of me, but from what you said, it looks like they avoid Miami.
Yeah.
It looks like they maybe avoid Georgia Tech.
They got Georgia Tech on the schedule.
Well, Georgia Tech's another one of those spoiler teams, but I would favor Clemson versus them. But, You just have to leave.
And they got North Carolina. Well, we'll see what Belichick has to do with this team, but North Carolina's not there yet. They have a few more years till they get to be better.
Yeah, they're weak.
Yeah. So let's move ahead here and let's talk about the starters on this team. You did some work here. You calculated starters and gave them a points for if they're returners or transfers or whatever. So I'll let you go in over that.
Well, and I'll list the different positions. There'll only be a name or two on this, but the quarterback, as you mentioned, Cade Klubnik, is a second team ACC last year, 2-year starter for Clemson. He's gotten better every year he's played. He's highly touted by all the analysts, all the professionals think he's maybe the best player, best quarterback anyway in college football. He's a 6.5. Running back, you got the website I was at has a 4-star recruit listed as the starter. So that's a 4. Your wide receiver, the ex-wide receiver is a returning starter, sophomore, 5. Wide receiver Z is a returning starter as well. He's a 5. Wide receiver H is a 3-year starter who was first team ACC in 2024. And, that's pretty darn good. So the wide receiving core looks pretty good. The left tackle is a 2-year starter, 5.5. Left guard was a rotational player over the last 2 years who has 8 collective starts in those years. So, he's a 4.5. You got your center who's a returning starter, first team ACC in 2024. You got your right guard who's a third team ACC player in 2024. He's a 4-year starter on top of that. So that's really good. The right tackle's a 3-year starter who was an ACC first team 2024 and a third team in 2023. Almost as good as Illinois' offensive line that we went over a couple weeks ago. Tight end was a reserve with 1 start, 3.5, so he's going to be making his first turn. We'll see how that works out. Offense graded at a 62. Pretty darn good.
Yeah.
And that's with a 4-star recruit and a tight end making their first turn. So there's a lot of talent. There's a lot of returning starters there. That offense is going to be loaded. Now you get to your defense. Defense, left defensive end's a returning starter who was second team All-ACC in 2024. Left defensive tackle's a returning starter. The right defensive tackle made 6 starts in 2024, so not a starter, but experience. Your right defensive end was a 2-year rotational player at Purdue. What that means is played a lot during the games, maybe made 4 or 5 starts a year, but was a solid 2024 with stats. So, the defensive line, not real bad. Weak side linebacker had 6 starts last year, had over 80 tackles and 5 sacks. So that's with 6 starts. What would he have had with 12? That guy seems like he's pretty good, even though he wasn't a returning starter. The middle linebacker was a returning starter. Left cornerback's a returning starter, and he's a second team All-ACC in 2024. Strong safety made 4 starts in 2024. The free safety was a rotating reserve player. He's a young player, sophomore. Right cornerback had 4 starts in 2024. Solid stats, though. And then your nickelback's a returning starter and made 7 starts in 2023. So the experience there. Defense graded a little bit lower. They were a 53.5, and a lot of that's because there's a few guys in there that were not graded as starters. But there is experience there. They should pan out over the season goes along. I don't know how you feel, but if my team had a weaker side, I'd rather the defense be a little weaker because they'll grow into the season.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what we got for their starters. I really believe they're going to do well.
Yeah, like you said, to me, they're returning starters, like you mentioned. Cade Klubnik, he's the guy. Yeah. Receivers, Antonio Williams. Wide receiver Brian Wesco Jr. is another stud. On, like you said, you mentioned on the defensive side, linebacker Sammy Brown and linebacker Wade Woodez. So they're both sides of the ball. They got some stars back. So they got the firepower they need to be in the mix here.
Right.
So let's go in and let's talk about their recruiting class. One thing about their recruiting class is this is one of their weaker classes that they've had in years,
Yeah.
which is not really heard of for a Clemson
Right.
team because they're usually stockpiling some 5-star kids.
Yeah. I don't understand. They only had 15 commits, which is very low for a Power 4 team, especially one as heralded as Clemson over the years, right? But, I got them ranked as the 4th best class in the ACC, which is shocking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And 29th
Exactly.
overall. So, I mean, not terrible. Not what you'd expect from a Clemson.
Yeah.
We got a 5-star defensive lineman, and I'm sure you'll get into that gentleman here in a bit. 2 offensive tackles that were 4-star. 2 running backs that were 4-star. So to go along with that 4-star recruit, he's listed one of those. So you got good depth. You got an edge rusher that was 4-star. That's pretty much it in the recruiting class. Now, that's not to say some of these 3-stars can't get in there and do something. But for the most part, that's not a real strong recruiting class. And before we go a little further with this, they didn't have a lot of great reserves. They do have 3 wide receivers on the reserve depth that had good stats. 1 guard, 1 defensive tackle, 1 cornerback, and 1 linebacker. So there's a little bit of depth on top of the recruits.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, they only had 1 5-star recruiting kid coming in, and that's Amari Adams. He's a defensive line guy. He's their highest rated recruit coming in to the season. And like you said, their starting running back that they kind of have penciled in is that Gideon Davidson that you'd had wrote down.
Yeah.
He's a 4-star kid coming in, so we'll see how well he fits in on the game plan here. But it's really shocking that Clemson's recruiting class is that low, out of the late 20s and 30s somewhere in there. The transfer classes, they barely ever get any transfer classes coming in, or kids coming in, I should say, because they don't really look at trying to bring kids in. And now they're going to have to stay up with this nil.
Yeah.
And, all these kids moving around and, stars going everywhere, but their best kid coming in was a transfer from Alabama, Jeremiah Alexander. He was a 5-star kid going to Alabama. He's now coming to Clemson. He's going to help out greatly. He's a linebacker, so they're stacked at the linebacker position. They have a lot of superstars there at that position. So,
well, like I said, the grade of the defense doesn't sound good, but keep in mind within that. I just told you the 1 linebacker was listed as a 4.5, but he had over 80 tackles.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you got to take the grade with a little bit of salt. And I think Clemson is set up to do rather well. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. So let's get into that burning question here. Is how do you feel where Clemson's going to fall in line here? What do you think they're going to do in the ACC? And then past that,
I believe they will be in the championship game of the ACC. Okay, I think Miami might look a little more like the favorite, but we all saw what happened to Miami last year as well. So, Clemson to me, I think they're going to be there. I think they should make the playoffs. I think the ACC could get 2 teams in because, like I say, I think it's a little better conference this year. Louisville's going to take a step forward. Miami's going to be what they were last year, except we think they will get in this year. SMU's not really going anywhere. Georgia Tech's going to be that same pain in the rear end. They always are. So I think they'll be all right.
Yeah, I agree. The odds-on favorite, the AFC championships game is going to be probably Clemson versus Miami. I think they're 2 of the best rostered teams out there. I think they're going to go there. And I really got Clemson as far as making it to the Final Four in that 12-man tournament, 12-team tournament, because I really think that this team is loaded. And if Cade takes that step forward, they're going to be in the mix there. And I kind of penciling them in.
I mean, the offense is strong.
Yeah.
And, I believe the defense will come along on top of that. So there's no question they could end up there. I'm saying I think they're making the playoffs. I think they're a good chance to win the ACC.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. Looking at this team here, it's pretty exciting to be a Clemson fan because I think that they're really going to have an outstanding year here. I think that they're gonna beat a lot of good teams, and I think they are going to make it to the Final Four.
Remaining healthy is going to be key.
Health of the team. Yes,
I think like so many teams from last year, a lot of Clemson's guys that earned a playoff or experience last year, they're now starting. Mm-hmm. Their depth from last year are now guys starting. Mm-hmm. So we'll see what happens.
Yep.
I think they should be excited down there in South Carolina.
Yeah. So definitely, I'd be excited if I was a Clemson fan, and that's going to wrap it up for here. It was fun reviewing this team and studying this team. I think they were. I think they're an outstanding team.
Yeah.
And hey, please comment, like, and subscribe. Leave a comment. Let us know what you think. If you think Clemson's the team to beat or not, just let us know.
And let me say this. Let's get some people that give us some comments that matter. Some of you people out there like college football. Send us some comments about your teams that you like, because like I say, we don't know all these players. All we can do is look on the internet and find the information we can find. Some of you out there probably know a lot more about this team than we do. Maybe you can give us more information as their backups and their depth and all that. So we would welcome that.
Like I said, we're just reviewing and going over all these teams there. So we're just trying to throw this information out to you. So let us know if you got any more insights on Clemson. We'd like to hear about it.
Yep.
So that's going to do it. Peace.
Peace.